Hey guys, it's Rob here and welcome back to another video. So in this video we are going to talk about the game keycard. I feel like this has been a pretty big discussion in the Nintendo community right now, so I think it's worth having a discussion. And also there is some new findings about the actual game keycards and what Nintendo is doing with them, so there is some news on that front. It gives a reason why there are so many developers opting in for game keycards potentially here, so we're going to cover that news as well. If you guys end up enjoying this video, make sure you guys leave a like and of course subscribe for more videos just like this. So when it comes to game keycards, I'm on the side of I just don't like them. I would rather have the physical game on the actual cartridge, especially when it comes to just preserving that specific game that I own. I mean, they shut down the 3DS eShop, so now we can't have access to a lot of the 3DS stuff. Who's to say that they won't do that with the Nintendo Switch shop in the future as well, which more than likely they will. And considering how much Nintendo Switches are out there, especially with the upcoming Nintendo Switch 2, more than likely we're going to be keeping our Switches for quite some time. It's probably going to be similar to the Nintendo 3DS. So a lot of us are still going to have these games, and if you have a game keycard and you don't have it downloaded on the system and you want to play the game, well, sorry, you're out of luck. You just can't play that game anymore, which really is dumb in my opinion. The only real thing that I would say is good about game keycards is that we're getting more games to play on the Nintendo Switch 2 right now. And to be honest, that's not really too much of a positive now that I think about it, because they can just put the game on the card anyways. What it looks like outside looking in, I'm no developer, but it kind of just looks like they're lazy. Now, if the game doesn't fit on the actual card, that makes a lot of sense. You can't actually put it on the card, but I would assume so anyways, that you can at least put some of the game on the card, right? Then there's less of a download when you put the actual game in. But overall, I would like to see every single game on the actual card. I just think that's a better way, especially when it comes to the Nintendo Switch, a portable system. A system that will eventually have its shop shut down and you won't be able to download those games anymore. So that's really the big issue here, and you essentially don't own the game at that point, even if you paid for the game itself. And because of all of this, a lot of people are just not happy with how some of these games are being handled when it comes to how you can play them and how you need to start playing them when it comes to just popping the cartridge in and just playing the game. And the one thing I do find interesting about this situation, especially when you compare it to the PS5 and Xbox Series X, is that this kind of thing has always been around. Now, I'm not saying that people haven't had their problems with this when it comes to like PlayStation 5 games doing this and PS4 and all that kind of stuff, right? Obviously, people have said that they just want the game on the actual disc. But as far as I can tell, I've never seen this many people come out and say that they don't like that. And I think there's a very specific reason, and it does have to do with Nintendo. Nintendo kind of opened Pandora's box. They made people more aware of what actually is going on. I don't know about you guys, but I usually don't look on whether or not the game's actually on the disc when I buy a game. I've just never even thought of that. So more than likely, there are probably a lot of games that do need that huge download and aren't actually on the disc. And I really just never thought of that. And I think why Nintendo is getting so much flack compared to like PS5 and Xbox Series X is a lot of people maybe just didn't realize when they were buying these games. I could be wrong on that, but I've never seen this much people bring up this specific thing when it comes to just gaming in general. Again, there were people who always do talk about that, but it's never been on this scale. And I think the reason behind this is because Nintendo basically put this out in the forefront, which they should have. They should be telling, which companies should be doing that. They should be saying, hey, this game isn't on the disc or the cartridge. So that's one thing that Nintendo did right in that situation, but I still think a lot of these games should just be on the cartridge. Again, unless it can't fit on the cartridge. Now, when it comes to that, then you do have to talk about the discussion of, well, developers need to make these games smaller. They need to compress the games, I think the word is I'm looking for. And yeah, I think a lot of companies, I mean, remember like how big the Call of Duty games were? And they're still pretty big till this day as well, if I remember correctly. I haven't played Call of Duty in quite some time. Someone in the comment section let me know how much gigabytes Call of Duty is right now, but I'm sure it's just an astounding number still. And of course, that's gonna have to fit on the Nintendo Switch too, because Nintendo and Xbox do have that deal that it needs to be the full Call of Duty. So what are they probably going to do? They're probably going to do game keycards more than likely. And we do have some information on why exactly third-party developers might be doing this. This is what Necrophilip over on Twitter had to say. Thanks to the leaks from Arc System Works, only 3 types of formats have been found to be available for games being planned for the Nintendo Switch 2. DL, digital game only, 64GB cartridge with full game, and then potion, codenamed for key card format. He goes on to say that this supports the theory that cartridge options with formats smaller than 64 gigabytes for Switch 2 games are not available. To reduce costs, companies have opted for game key cards access keys. So if this is true, this is on Nintendo. This is their fault that all these companies are going this route. Now, for the most part anyways, I should say, because there are companies that maybe could compress their games and make them smaller and fit the whole thing on the cartridge, or I'm sure there's probably some games that could easily fit on the cartridge that is less than 64 gigabytes and still work. Like Cyberpunk 2077 plus the DLC is on the actual cartridge. Come on, a lot of these games should just be on the cartridge. But Nintendo isn't making it easier for developers to do that in the first place if this is all they're offering. The interesting thing here is going to be is if Nintendo ends up bringing up bigger cartridges, are we going to see a lot more games that are on the actual cartridges in the future? Is this something that's just happening now and it'll get better later on? My thoughts on that is that it's going to depend on the company probably, because you know a lot of companies like to save money. Saving money means you make more money. So people like, I don't know, EA or Ubisoft, I wouldn't doubt that they would go that route to save money to make more money on the games that they're selling on the Nintendo Switch. The one thing I'm interested in, especially when it comes to CD Projekt, is the new Witcher 4 game. Is that going to be on the cartridge if they bring that to the Nintendo Switch 2? Or is the game just going to be too big that they're going to have to not put it on the actual cartridge and it's going to have to be a game key card? They fit Cyberpunk 2077 on there, so it's going to be very interesting to see. And taking it back to the whole thing about a lot of people not realizing that a lot of these games are actually just on the disc, which they should be on the disc in my opinion. Or at least me not realizing it, I should say. I can't speak for you guys. For me personally, I didn't realize a lot of these games weren't actually on the disc because I just don't check for it on the case myself. It's not something I've ever checked and never really expected. But with Nintendo making it an actual feature and really putting it at the forefront during those trailers, I think that made more people realize, oh wait, a lot of these games actually aren't on the disc, and that's why a lot of people are talking about it now, is because Nintendo essentially made people more aware of that, which that's really the only good thing that Nintendo is doing here. I mean, you go on Twitter and you search PS5 game keycard and you'll see a whole bunch of people bring up things like Doom the Dark Ages, a game that recently released, I think anyways, I'm pretty sure it's out by now, that needs to be downloaded via the internet on the physical version of the PS5 disc. Now when it comes to buying that digitally or buying on the disc, you can always trade that back to GameStop, so that's really the only positive here. Same thing with the game key cards. I mean, you scroll a bit down over on here and Botox Games also brings up Hitman World of Assassination and a recently released game from Ubisoft, what's the name? Outlaws. So this isn't something new. This is something that has been happening for quite some time. I think now that Nintendo has put this out in the open and said, hey, these things are download only, and made sure that people know that these things do exist, now people are looking at other consoles and realizing, wait, this one is the same thing as that too. Or maybe I'm just dumb and I just missed it on the case and everyone else knows it but me. I don't know. Let me know in the comment section below. But I feel like this hasn't been talked about on this scale in the past, and I think the reason why is because Nintendo made it more apparent to everybody. Now I do have to say, if it is true that Nintendo is only offering these three options, the 64 gigabyte card, the digital only download, and then of course the third option, the game key cards, then Nintendo needs to absolutely offer different things. They need to offer a larger card so companies can put the full game on the Nintendo Switch 2. The Nintendo Switch 2, if you're going to be increasing the prices because of the tariffs on like accessories and stuff, and if you're gonna be doing $80 games, which Mario Kart is on the card, that's very good, but like I'm sure there's eventually gonna be an $80 game that is not on the card. If you're gonna be increasing the price, that thing better be on the card. You know what I mean? Like, you're spending extra money. When you shut down that eShop, I want to still be able to play the game. Simple as that. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about that down in the comment section below. Do you think Nintendo is going to eventually offer bigger cards? Again, this is off of some leaked information. It could just not be true. It could just be Nintendo being a crappy company. They could be being greedy, trying to secure more third-party support so people buy their console, you know? We don't really know. It's not from Nintendo, so don't go 100% believing it. With that being said, I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.